Ms. Farouk, what are the forms through which violent extremism manifests itself and how to recognize them on time?
So, violent extremism is essentially ideologically motivated violence to further social, political, or economic goals. It's usually different from other forms of violent crime where somebody's really motivated to achieve some kind of broader societal level change. And so for some of these groups, they're trying to recreate a utopian society where perhaps one ethnic or racial or religious group is predominant over others. Maybe they're trying to radically alter the system of governance or other goals that they're trying to pursue. So we find some similarities between various nationalist groups, groups like ISIS, as well as some ideologically motivated gangs that have been developing around the world.
You have worked on field in more than 80 cities or in villages in Afghanistan and Pakistan. I suppose that you've met or maybe you have talked with some people who are members in some terrorist organization, or maybe you have talked to some religious leader. What personality profiles apply violent extremism and what are their motivations?
You know, unfortunately, we've met with a number of individuals who would consider themselves former violent extremists. And across the board, there are so many different motivations or factors which might motivate somebody to adopt that kind of ideology which drives them towards violence. So the same types of recruitment and radicalization techniques that are used to draw somebody towards a nationalistic militia group, or the same types of tactics that are used to draw somebody towards a group like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, they're all very similar. So they're basically looking for individuals that are lacking a sense of belonging. They're perhaps marginalized, they feel disenfranchised, they don't have a voice, they have no power to really affect any kind of positive, constructive change in their communities. For some individuals, it's economic. It could be because a terrorist organization is offering them financial incentives. It could be that they're experiencing relative deprivation, this feeling that their community has less than others. So basically, it's a very long list of factors that could influence one's decision to join a violent extremist organization. So there simply is no terrorist profile.
Is there a way to stop these persons to do violence or terrorist acts? Does only the conversation helps, or maybe you need to do more?
You know, around the world, I've been really inspired by taking lessons from communities that are at the forefront of this issue, and they're building resilience against radicalization to violent extremism. So they're doing this through a number of ways. They're trying to promote social cohesion. They're doing multicultural exchanges. Some religious leaders are standing up and speaking out against violence. They're issuing religious edicts. In some communities, they're fatwas. So there's a broad range of initiatives in which you can challenge extremist ideologies, address a lot of those reasons that they might be influenced towards these violent groups. And there's a lot of efforts now that I'm seeing to tap into psychosocial counseling, you know, social work to help build up some of the protective factors so that people aren't as vulnerable.
You've mentioned religion. What is the role or the influence of the religion on extremists? And can we say that sometimes extremists are misusing the religion just to do bad things?
You know, studies show time and time again that religiosity simply is not a proven indicator that somebody could be at greater risk of radicalizing. In fact, in many instances, religion is used to create community bulwark against radicalization. So what I found working with different leaders from multiple faith communities is that faith-based organizations are in a unique position in civil society where they can identify immediately some of the challenges in their communities. They can identify the sources of conflict, they can mobilize resources to address those issues, and they can also create a lot of public awareness campaigns. Some instances, as I mentioned, they can also counter extremist narratives. So there's a great deal of opportunity working with religious leaders of all faiths to create greater resilience against radicalization.
Ms. Farouk, how do people react on the strategy that you're applying in communities, on public awareness campaigns or counter violent extremism and terrorism?
No, I think there's a great deal of confusion sometimes over these terms like countering violent extremism, and in some instances it's really a question of semantics. But I think when you get down to the root of what civil society organizations are doing, they're doing what they've always done. They're promoting intercultural exchanges, they're trying to promote conflict mediation, they're trying to promote development that fosters stability. So really a lot of our work is just kind of working with communities and adapting what they're already doing to address this particular issue set.
To the end, how to win this evil? Are there measures that guarantee 100% prevention of violent extremism?
I think what we really have to keep in mind is that this issue of violent extremism has been developing, for several decades, and so equally the response will take quite a long time for us to address. And part of the solution will be empowering civil society actors so that they can really create the programs, the responses that are necessary to challenge this ideological threat. So what I would love to see is more international governments and communities, donor agencies, basically working with local communities, identifying what kind of local resources they already have, amplify those efforts further.